Hello and welcome to Culture Shocked, the pop culture podcast brought to you by four aging millennials and our outdated opinions. I'm your host, Corey, and with me today is...
Yeah, I'm Mike, and we should find the fish man and kill him.
And I'm going to lead into this with just one quote from the late, great Chadwick Boseman. You have to cherish things in a different way when you know the clock is ticking. You are under pressure. So we're going to start this episode off a little more sad than we usually do. Me and Mike, Doug is also a very big fan of the Marvel movies overall. Adrian has his reservations on them, let's say. But I think he did still like the Black Panther movie. I don't want to quote him, but I think he liked Black Panther. And Chadwick Boseman was not only in Hollywood one of the greatest actors we had, but one of the nicest people in the world in real life, and just a goddamn tragedy when he died. He had a cancer that he didn't even really tell anybody about. He wanted to keep acting until the day he died. His closest friends barely even knew he had anything wrong with him. And where some people out there say that's selfish, that he didn't let people help him, I totally get it. He didn't want people feeling bad for him. He wanted to keep doing what he did until the day he was done. And he gave us everything he gave us. And you know what? He gave us gold till the day he died.
I mean, yeah, the dude, from everything that I've read and saw, he was really down to earth, like chill dude. I completely understand not wanting to burden like your friends or anybody with that kind of like, negative responsibility. Like, because, and also, yeah, okay, I can see people being like, oh, it's kind of selfish, but I mean, be in his shoes for a minute. He just wanted to act. He just wanted to go out there, create art the best way he knew how, and phenomenal, mind you. And like, who would want to do that while everybody was constantly going, "Are you okay? How did the doctor, or what did the doctor say?" Like,
Exactly.
No, like nobody. Who the fuck wants to deal with that shit when you're just trying to enjoy life?
If you ask me, the way he handled it was more badass than most people would have.
Yeah, he didn't look for any sympathy. He didn't look for any, there was no woe is me kind of crap. No, the dude was solid.
No, as a matter of fact, he did more for people than I think people did for him even. Like, he was a very generous person. He was very caring. He asked everybody how their day was going. Like, he was a very nice guy from what I've read. And like, even when he was sick and knew he was dying, holy shit, man, he still walked around and asked everybody how they were doing. That's crazy. I don't know that I would have the mental capacity to think about other people all the time like he did.
Yeah, he wasn't selfish. He was selfless.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to start that off by saying, he was a great man and we lost him way too soon. And we're going to move forward here with the movie. And I'm going to let you know right now, this is going to be very spoiler heavy. We're not holding anything back. We're going to talk about the entire movie. So if you don't want to know anything about this, wait till you watch the movie and come back and listen to this.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is perfect time. If you haven't seen it yet, it does start streaming in February. So I think the beginning of the month, actually. February 1st, in fact. So literally the beginning. So if you haven't seen the movie, do not listen to the rest of this episode.
I wouldn't suggest
until you have.
Or you're going to be very mad.
Unless you're like me and you don't care about spoilers.
I care. I hate that shit. So I get it. But let's go ahead and move on to the movie itself. Now, the original script for Ryan Coogler was going to focus mainly on T'Challa and his son. It turns out in this movie at the end that he had a son, and nobody knew about it except obviously Nakia.
I thought that was actually really cool too.
It was.
That a lot of times when they do that with comic book characters or whatever, not like sometimes it either feels forced or seems stupid.
Yeah.
But I think they handled it really well, and it like I know we'll probably get into it a little bit as far as like any negatives about this movie, but I thought this movie handled just about everything the right way. It seemed like a very good homage to Chadwick Boseman. I think that they paid tribute to him fairly well while still telling a compelling story without making it focused around him. Like, that had to be one of the hardest things for a writer and a director to do.
Well, actually, even harder because he had the entire movie written already. That script was finished. It wasn't a rough draft anymore. That movie was finished being written. And it was going to focus much more on him and his son, which makes me think that the kid who was cast as his son wasn't going to be who was cast, because that would have been a long movie for that. That kid was kind of little. I think maybe
Yeah,
they were planning on him being a little older, maybe. And I don't think all those details will ever be out. But Ryan Coogler was left with one of the hardest things you could possibly be left with as a director. He had to take a person in his real life who died and a character in his movie, the main character who also died. He had to figure out a way to gently add that to a movie that was already written. And he actually found a very beautiful way to have him pass in the movie of an illness that nobody knew about, just like in his real life. And he also found an amazing way to have everyone in the movie deal with it like we were in real life. But the only thing that bothered me uh, about the whole everybody feeling the loss is they didn't really show. I know they wanted to focus on Wakanda, but they didn't really show anybody in the Avengers world who knew him reacting. That kind of
yeah,
bothered me that they didn't even have, even in a paper, like this person said this, or like a YouTube video on Riri's computer playing, Hulk talks about the loss, or just they had to have, they should have had somebody reacting to it.
yeah. I mean, I guess I can kind of understand that complaint. I didn't really think much about that, but now that you bring it up, I kind of am like, oh yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, this movie was completely focused around, Wakanda, and I'm drawing a blank of the name of Namor's kingdom.
It was just Atlantis, but
Oh yeah,
I don't
okay.
remember what his people were called. I think they have a name, but I'm not entirely sure.
Um, but I mean, it was mostly just focused around Wakanda and Atlantis, and these two groups of people kind of being the same, but at odds with each other. So I don't think this movie was already long enough.
Yeah.
I think
It was
having
actually a little too long.
that was one of my very few complaints about this movie, is that it was extremely long. But I think adding a little bit of the Avengers stuff, like if you could have sprinkled it in there, like you said, with a newspaper article or like
Yeah.
a
It didn't have to
video,
be a direct character on screen.
it could just be something in the background that doesn't
Exactly.
even have any. Like, I get that that would have been a nice little Easter egg, but no, you know how Marvel is. I feel like there's probably a deleted scene out there where there is something like that, but it was probably like 10 fucking minutes long. And they were like, this movie's too long
Or
already.
if that exists, they ultimately decided that it should probably focus on the Wakandans and
Right.
how they feel about it. I'm sure that it'll come out in a movie coming up, like We Miss T'Challa, or I Wish T'Challa Was Here for This, or
What's the
something.
next Avengers movie?
The next Avengers movie is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Or do you mean Avengers
Well,
specifically?
I mean, like Avengers.
Oh, that's not until 2024, I think.
Oh
That'll
my
be
god.
Avengers Secret Wars, I think. And then there'll be one Quantum something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I haven't looked into that in a while. But yeah, there's going to be two Avengers movies, one in 24 and one in 25, to wrap up phase 5 and 6, I think. And they're promising, I don't know if this is going to be end up being true, but they're kind of promising that they're going to be on the level of Infinity War and Endgame, like next to each other.
Really?
Yeah, that's what was said.
Huh.
And I believe it with Kang, and Jonathan Majors is a great actor, so I think it's very possible.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see, because there's very little in my camp that's better than Infinity War and Endgame together. That is a very, very good 2-movie story.
My worry isn't that they're not going to do it well, or that it's not going to be good. I think Marvel has proven time and time again that they know how to make a good movie.
It's going to be fun
Um,
regardless.
it's going to be a great movie, and hell,
Yeah,
it might even be as good as those two, as Infinity War or
could be.
Endgame. But the problem that Adrian and I have touched on
Yeah,
before is, I think a lot of people after Endgame kind of were like, they're kind of like, really, we're going to
it,
start a whole new
it was
saga.
it was a good moment to move on from that world. Yes, but the problem is comics don't just end a story and then
No,
end.
right?
They move on to a new saga. And a lot of people who are complaining about these movies doing this probably aren't comic book readers. They probably don't
Oh God,
understand that's
no.
kind of how it's done. And I'm their opinion is very valid. I don't hate Adrian's opinion. He's right about a lot of stuff, but
Well,
he's
Doug hates
wrong.
Adrian's opinion.
He does, but he's wrong that they shouldn't do anymore. That's absolutely wrong. They have a new team they're building, and it's very exciting. I love. Now the She-Hulk show was not good. It was
No.
it started promising. She was funny and she's a compelling character, but
Yeah.
it was a crime drama. It wasn't a Marvel show. It was a crime drama, and I don't usually care for those. And so
I actually like those. So
I like, yeah, you do.
Maybe I'd like it.
Yeah, it's not bad if you like crime dramas. Just don't expect like, oh, when's the big Marvel fight happening? Because it doesn't, and it bothered me. And which says a lot about how I view these movies. Like, I need big action pieces for these movies. These are not, and this is going to hurt me to say because I'm a huge fan. The Marvel movies are not a compelling story. The story
No.
is not what I watch these movies for, really. It's the characters talking to each other, fighting each other, big set pieces, great CGI, the big battle where they might lose, but the good guys pull it out in the end. I don't care about like where they went grocery shopping that day, and well, Becky said this about me. I don't care about their drama and their lives, and She-Hulk dove way too deep into that.
Okay, it's very unlikely that any Marvel movie is ever going to win an Oscar.
No,
I'm not
probably
saying
not.
that. I'm not saying
the first
that it
Black
couldn't.
Panther won one for the music.
Yeah, well, that's impressive.
Because Ryan Coogler knows what he's doing with music, man. He also directed Creed, and that's a great movie too.
I would actually say that this movie, being how like it wasn't your typical Marvel movie, it wasn't like lighthearted and funny. It actually had a lot of dark undertones to it, and it had a very serious story. So I'm actually kind of shocked you enjoyed it as much as you did.
We'll get to that because after sitting on it for a while, like I saw it twice in theaters, and I got to sit on it for a little while, and I actually have more complaints than I would have thought.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I know you like. That's why, as much as I love Marvel and I love Marvel movies, I have always. I'm not going to say I love DC movies more, but story wise and comic book wise, I love DC more than Marvel because I strongly feel that stories are more compelling and they have a lot more darkness to them. Now I know Doug likes to argue with me about that and says there's a lot of Marvel that has dark stories, and I was like, yeah, you're right, and I love those stories.
Yeah,
but most of your Marvel characters were not meant for those kind of storylines.
No,
and that's okay.
They started a lot of Marvel stuff to like calm people down during the Depression and World War One. It was made to make people smile and be happy. Marvel wasn't really made to bum you out like DC was.
Well, the golden age of DC was very campy, and
you're right. Superman is very colorful.
Yeah,
like when you look at all his old issues, it's all bright blue skies, very colorful. So DC also didn't start to bum you out, but as DC went forward, they realized, and DC fans are going to hate me for this, but I think Marvel did better with their stories.
I would say that
they were excelling in the fun area. So DC decided, well, we got to go more dark and detective mode. And it was very compelling. And I love that on DC books, but movies, I want a little more to my movies.
With the movies, DC has always had like a swing and like they'll have a hit here and then they'll have like 3 failures. And it's one of those things where with me where I feel, the Batman movies, they work like that because the Batman is a dark character.
Yes.
And it's easy to go through an entire movie with Batman and not have very many funny moments because you know what you're getting into.
Which is why the Joss Whedon Justice League didn't work, because Batman was like a little schoolgirl who loved Superman and like got giddy when he showed up. That's not Batman.
Fucking Joss. Joss is great at camp. Like he does campy like no one else.
And I don't know why they handed him Justice League. Like, honestly. And this was before all that stuff came out about him.
Yeah. Did they want it to fail?
I don't know. I didn't. When they gave Joss Whedon the reins, I was like, the dude who did Slither and Avengers? Really? That's who you're giving this to?
I mean,
Avengers is fun and it's full of jokes, but that's not what you need to do with Justice League.
and
Justice
don't
League has never been a jokey thing.
no,
It's more of a
no.
serious thing.
I mean, you have the Flash, who
Yeah, he's
is
funny.
he
And
is comic relief. He's supposed to
when he's
be.
bouncing off of Green Lantern, they have a playful back and forth.
Yep.
And Cyborg, they have a
Yep.
playful back and forth, but for the most part their team is serious.
Yeah.
And giving Joss Whedon the reins over we're not talking about that right now, but giving just Joss Whedon the reins over Justice League was just stupid. It was dumb.
No, they could have definitely went a better route with that.
Like,
With that being said, this movie, Wakanda Forever, it was definitely very dark.
it was, but there was a reason.
Right, and it's completely understandable, and I'm glad they didn't try to throw in a bunch of Marvel-esque
like punchy
comic
jokes,
bits.
and
Like
it would
the
have
funniest
taken away from
character,
the moment.
the funniest character was Baku,
M'Baku.
which I love him.
M'Baku is great. Actually, one of my complaints about this movie is that going into it after Chadwick died, I assumed M'Baku was going to take a much bigger place, and I assumed he was going to be a lead in this movie, and he just kind of was still a side character, and I didn't like that.
Fell into the backside, or fell into the B story.
Yeah, he had a great moment with Shuri where he said, he tells her, too much has happened to you for you to be a child.
Yeah,
Like, he gave her very good advice at the end of this movie, and that's ultimately, I think, what pushed her to realize that she's not a kid anymore. She's got to step up. But so he had huge moments, but just M'Baku's so incredibly, I loved him in the first movie. Loved him. I loved his character. I love that he started out as this guy who wanted to challenge T'Challa, ended up being an ally at the end, and
yeah. I personally feel he had the characteristics to be able to be a leader.
He did, but he was a little too primitive.
Yeah, and he took his loss. I was gonna say respectfully, but that's not exactly.
He took
it with pride.
Yeah, he took it with pride. He gained respect for T'Challa right there, and followed him blindly. I mean, he never really questioned him again in the movies. Whatever he had to do, he's like, okay, let's do it then.
And losing something like that could easily make somebody a villain. So, I mean, kudos to M'Baku.
In a lot of DC movies, that's what happens.
It's true.
A good guy beats a bad guy, and they become a bigger bad guy.
I was a little skeptical about Shuri becoming Black Panther. Not when I found out what they were doing. When I originally found out, I was all excited for it. But when I started watching the movie, and the way she was acting in the beginning, really down, which I obviously understandable.
Yeah.
But she was just pushing everybody away and didn't want to talk about anything, was burying herself in her work, stuff like that. And you're just like, this is who's going to be the next Black Panther? I don't see it.
But that was the absolutely amazing thing about her in this movie.
That's what they needed to do, because they needed to show her, find a way to get to that point. And I think in this 2-hour and 41-minute movie, they did an excellent character arc with her.
Yeah, just her struggle to not let her emotions control her was very, very intriguing. And I think it was brilliant to have her see Killmonger in her vision.
Yeah.
It made so much sense. I was so afraid when she went into her vision they were going to do a CGI Chadwick and just try to make him take lines that he's deleted lines, or try to mash them together to make a CGI Chadwick talking to her, and
like Disney's done with Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so fucking amazing that she saw Killmonger, and because when you really think about it, when he talks to her, he's right. She was approaching this from a very vengeful place.
Yep.
And she kind of wanted what he wanted, to hide back from the world, not give them everything. She wanted to control it in a much less genocidal way.
Yeah.
She didn't want to kill a bunch of people, but she still wanted what Killmonger wanted. It was brilliant.
The way Marvel handled the Killmonger character too, I don't necessarily think that he was really in the wrong for doing what he did.
No, he wasn't. They were in the wrong for killing his dad in the first place.
Yeah. And so you're right. The parallels there are very similar. They both wanted revenge, and that's why they went the route they did.
Exactly.
I agree that scene went really well. I was expecting her to see her mom, so which I guess she eventually does, right? I'm trying to remember.
No, I don't think
No,
you see her again. Which let's just talk about Angela Bassett for a second.
fucking amazing.
Man, she deserves an Oscar for this performance. Like, I know
Yeah,
she probably won't get one because it's a Marvel movie, blah blah
right,
blah.
right.
But Angela Bassett absolutely killed it. Absolutely killed it. She
She had
like
a much bigger role this time.
her emotions in this movie, like when she's yelling and saying, "Have I not done enough?" It's beautiful. Like it
Yeah,
actually, it got deep down inside me. I just think she's perfect, and I really wish they wouldn't have killed her because she finally had like an interesting character arc, like that could have went on. So I really kind of wish they wouldn't have killed her, but it was a beautiful, time to die for her. But I don't know. I would rather still have her in the MCU.
well, yeah, but it's kind of the same with T'Challa. He kind of took over the whole Black Panther mantle after his father passed.
Yeah.
So I feel like Shuri needed that kind of that boost or that motivation too. It's just the way they both went about doing it was completely different.
Yeah.
Now, granted, T'Challa did try to get revenge on Zemo.
Yeah. But even after finding out Zemo killed his dad, he still didn't kill him.
Yep, he didn't even fight him.
No,
Not
he just put
really.
him in a chokehold.
Yeah,
He actually saved his life. Zemo put that gun up to his throat, and he
yeah.
hurried up and put his hand in between his throat and the barrel of the gun, and bounced off his hand because of vibranium. But
In that aspect, T'Challa was definitely a lot better than Shuri.
yeah, T'Challa
Because
was
she,
much more level-headed than Shuri. Shuri was still kind of a kid. She was
she,
still kind of a dumb 20-year-old. Like, who the hell is smart enough to lead a country at 20 years old? Not many people.
no, and she damn near killed fucking Namor.
Yeah. She, yeah, you're right. And she almost got her people in trouble a couple times because of her
Yeah,
stupid decisions.
yep.
And, sure, but that was the whole point of the story arc, is that they made her, by the end of the movie, a very believable leader.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Before I talk about how wonderful Namor was, I think he nailed it. It was fantastic.
Okay, we're going to disagree there.
Oh, you didn't like it? Okay, all right. One of my biggest complaints, other than the runtime, was Ironheart.
See, I thought she was way better than Namor.
Well, I'm not saying that. I like the character. Like, I like the actress. She did a great job. But as soon as she put on the suit, all I saw was Iron Man.
Okay, now you're getting into one of my complaints, which is actually a multiple complaint with suits in this movie. There's multiple suits in this movie I did not like. I also don't like Okoye's Midnight Angel suit.
No,
I
that
thought
is
it was
stupid.
ugly and unnecessary. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Ironheart suit also was way too bulky and ugly.
It just reminded me like it was an Iron Man ripoff,
It was
which I
funny that
suppose.
it had cornrows. Okay, that was great. Nice touch. But the Ironheart suit in the comics is much smaller.
Yeah,
Like,
it
it's
looks
very
form
sleek
fitting.
and it looks Iron Man. So that
Yeah,
part was still Iron Man, but
yeah,
it's very sleek and form fitting. So I didn't get the whole bulky thing. I guess she's not quite as brilliant as Tony Stark, and she made it herself. So yeah, so I guess I understand why it's not like Iron Man's first one in the cave was
yeah.
huge. So
Well, here's the difference though. What Tony Stark was working with in that cave was a bunch of fucking scrap metal that he had to fucking piece together
but
himself.
she was also a poor MIT student
But the one
working
she
with
put
similar.
together wasn't the one she put together in Wakanda?
No, she had been putting it together in her garage, and they took it to Wakanda, I think.
Okay. Well, never
Maybe.
mind
I don't
then.
remember
I
that
don't
part, but
know. It
either
seemed
way, it was a
it
little
seemed really
too.
sleek, but yeah, it was really bulky.
Yeah, yeah, that part. Yeah, that's one of my things too. The suits weren't great. Like, Okoye even says when she's showing it to her, this thing is ugly,
Yeah,
and she's absolutely right. It was not
you
like in the
you're not wrong.
comics. In the comics, the Midnight Angel suit isn't even good looking. Like, it has like metal wings and like, I hate it. I don't like it. But I didn't think that was the route they were going with her, honestly. When they kicked her out, exiled her, I thought she was going to end up being Black Panther. I thought they were throwing us off in the
Oh yeah.
trailers, and it was going to end up being Okoye. And then when she shows her the damn Midnight Angel suit, I was like, oh, really? All right.
I don't know which one is worse, the one in the movie or the one in the comics.
Which one? The Midnight Angel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
So wait, what do you have an issue with Mr. Namor?
All right. Here's my little rant about Namor. Namor in the comics was a very interesting character.
Yeah.
In the movie, he was not interesting. I wanted him to. I really. They dove into his backstory quite a bit, which was great. That was great. I like that they did that. That you saw a lot of what made him who he is. But the whole time I was watching it, and both times I saw this in theaters, I just found myself not caring or connecting to his story at all. I didn't care. You were supposed to feel bad for him or something, and I never did. He was a very unlikable character the whole time, even though he was supposed to be, and as you would say, misunderstood. I
Oh,
didn't. That
he
didn't
definitely
come
was
off.
misunderstood,
It
but
didn't come off for me. He was a dictator. He wanted genocide. He wanted to kill people. I never felt bad for him. And the unfortunate part is, because this is the second movie, when this whole thing about being sad is done and it's like 5 years from now and everybody's just comparing villains, he's not even close to Killmonger. Like, Killmonger
oh
was
no.
10 times better of a villain in the first movie. I thought even Ulysses S. Claw was better. I just didn't find him interesting. He was a great actor, great actor.
Yeah.
He did that role beautifully, but I didn't find Namor interesting. And the other thing is his people. Is James Cameron mad about his people?
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
They're very Avatar-like.
That was the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I was like,
Blue people in water. I mean,
do we have is this the second Avatar or is this Avatar 1.5?
I didn't realize I went to see Avatar 2. So that's really what I didn't like about Namor, is I never really connected with him. And I like Killmonger, when he came into the first movie, I felt for him. And when he wanted to become the leader, I was like, yeah, he deserves a shot. But Namor, the way he was handling things, I didn't like him. Like, I didn't want him to succeed. Not that I wanted Killmonger to succeed. He was an evil person. But I got him and I felt his pain. But I never felt that with Namor.
Oh, they're the Talokan.
Is that what they were called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also known as Avatar. Oh, sorry.
Talokans, are they Kodalkans? Do you play Mortal Kombat?
I haven't played.
Never mind then. He's kind of a blue Aztec guy, which technically Namor would be Aztec. But
Yeah.
his name's Kodalkan in the games, and he's kind of a slow, boring character. But
what is with the name Khan? Like,
Yeah.
there's Genghis Khan. Oh, that's real life. I was trying to say, is it Shao Kahn?
Shao Kahn, yeah, he's in those
That's
games.
the one I was.
But that's what I didn't like about Namor. But you can talk about what you did, because
Well,
I know there was good things about him. I just didn't connect with him.
I thought one, they got the look right.
Oh, they absolutely got. Except he wasn't wearing his weird Speedo.
Well, yeah, they gave him shorts instead of a Speedo.
I think Rick and Morty did a better job with Namor than Black Panther did.
Is it Mr. Nimbus?
Mr. Nimbus. Mr. Nimbus.
Fuck, damn it, Morty! How did we crash in the ocean?
Oh shit! That means the treaty's broken.
Aesthetically, I'm actually glad they went with the shorts instead of the Speedo.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, I mean they had like his Aztecian like dressings, right?
Yeah, and like, you know, he was great as Namor. I just didn't connect to him.
Well, the character is kind of a dick in the comics.
Yes, he's not really a hero. He mostly looks out for his own people, which, but I mean, I don't know. The whole time I was watching, like, they showed his backstory as a kid, watching his people die, and like, I just didn't care. I was like, just get to the next scene, please. I remember thinking, like, who gives a shit about Namor's backstory? Just please. I almost feel like he would have been more compelling if they hadn't shown his backstory.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I would agree with that.
If
Uh,
they're going to show his backstory, have him eventually be kind of a good guy,
I kind of
which
like,
Namor was sometimes
yeah, when they needed help, he
when they
was
need.
like
Yeah,
he's like the not so good Aquaman.
yeah. If it benefited Namor and his people, he would get involved.
Yeah, I did love his one of his first scenes when he's talking to when he shows up in Wakanda
Yeah,
and he's talking to Ramonda
yeah.
about just about like how crisp the air is and how beautiful the water is and stuff like that. Like I,
My mother always told me about a place like this where we could hide away from the world and be safe.
and I'm confused. So Cherie gets kidnapped and
Yeah,
taken to essentially Atlantis,
yeah.
even though I don't think they call it Atlantis. I think and isn't that what Aquaman's place is called? Is Atlantis?
I think that's also what Namor's was called. In the
Um,
movie, I don't know.
I think in the movie they did call it that weird
In the
name. That
comics, it's called Atlantis.
when she gets kidnapped and taken to, you know, Namor's kingdom, she's looking around and she's seeing all these people, and the entire time I'm thinking is like, this is just like Wakanda.
Yeah,
Like there's all these similarities, and the first thing she says when she gets back is, I seen them. They're dangerous." And I'm like, bitch, they're the same as you.
I think that was part of her immaturity and non-trust. Was
I was,
that even though she saw the kids, she felt uneasy the whole time she was there.
which I mean, I get, you got kidnapped. Of course, you're gonna feel uneasy.
Yeah, and even like she even ends up accidentally killing one of the nurse ladies,
Yeah,
which definitely pisses Namor off,
I mean, and rightfully so.
and rightfully so. Yeah, she was absolutely wrong to be afraid of them, but he did basically tell her he's going to attack her people if they don't cooperate. So she had the right to be uneasy.
It kind of cracked me up. I just thought the entire time I'm watching it, and I'm like, yeah, this is really awesome. She's going to see that there's similarities between the two of them, and she's going to think, you know what, maybe we should coexist. Maybe we should like form a treaty or like some type of alliance. But no, she's like, they're dangerous. Let's go kill them.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yep. Shuri was also a very unlikable character most of the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like at the beginning, I did not care for her.
Yeah.
That's what I loved. I love Dominic Thorne's portrayal of Riri.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she's
Um,
brilliant.
her and Okoye were probably my favorite characters, main characters, because obviously M'Baku is my favorite.
Their
But
chemistry together when they're like bagging on each other was great.
I love when she's like, they don't teach you respect, and she says something else, and she's like, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
And then the spear comes out. She's like, you brought a spear in here?
You brought a spear into my dorm room? Yeah, but I thought she was actually a really good addition to this movie, and I'm looking forward to her going forward.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like in her show, in the comics, Ironheart dealt with Doctor Doom a lot.
Oh shit! Okay.
It was kind of how Ironheart was more introduced into the world.
Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, she fought Doctor Doom a lot, and Fantastic Four are coming, as everybody knows. So I feel like this is a good stepping stone for her meeting the Fantastic Four or fighting Doctor Doom in her show, maybe. And there's a lot of rumors out there that Justin Timberlake actually went and met Marvel around the time when they were casting Ironheart. So I'm hoping maybe he's playing Doctor Doom, which I think he'd nail it.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
great fucking actor, and he can be very intense.
People don't realize how good of an actor he is. Like,
that's right. People don't realize that.
If you haven't seen like The Social Network or I'm trying to think of
In Time is even a really good movie.
Yes, and that's the other one I was thinking of. Like, if you haven't seen either one of those movies, like, you're not really gonna get that Justin Timberlake's a really good actor, because everything else I've seen him in is like rom coms.
You got to push it out of your head that he's the SNL guy or NSYNC, or he's not that anymore. Like, he's still very funny. I love Justin Timberlake. Absolutely. He's very funny, but he also can act like a motherfucker, man.
You can do the robot with JT.
And what I liked about Riri in the movie was that a lot of times, well, okay, more Dominic Thorne. What I liked about her was that a lot of times in a movie, they'll throw an actor or an actress into a role where they're supposed to be the smart person or the scientist, and
Yeah.
it doesn't come off. Like they don't play the part well, they don't sound brilliant. They don't sound like she makes it flow like she's saying things she
Yeah.
knows. So like her as an actress, she killed it. I don't know if she actually is a genius in real life, but certainly the way she played this character made it come off as if she's really a genius.
She sounded just as smart as Robert Downey Jr. when he talks
Exactly.
as Tony Stark, and just as smart as Mark Ruffalo when he talks as Bruce Banner.
And to my happiness, she seemed as snarky and much of a prick as Iron Man is. So I'm kind of glad she. I wish they would have had more of a. In the comics, Iron Man and Ironheart knew each other.
Okay.
So I kind of wish they would have done that like before Iron Man died, but
like maybe she had like a Tony Stark scholarship or something.
Yeah, maybe like she accepted his scholarship, met him a couple times, and they were secretly working on that suit together before he died. Something like that.
Maybe there'll be more of a backstory there.
It could still happen. Like they are trying to figure out if they want to have Tony Stark in a flashback somewhere coming up in a movie or a TV show. Now, that'd be a good place to do it in an Ironheart show.
Is Robert Downey Jr. down for that? Because
he is, but at the same time, he likes that he died.
He was a little pissed that they used his likeness or whatever in a movie after his character's death.
Like, yeah, he thinks the way his character went out was beautiful, and he wants to keep it that way.
Yeah,
but I think if they ever wanted to bring him back for one scene as a flashback, I think he'd do it.
Well, yeah, because at flashback, you're still technically dead.
Exactly, and he doesn't have to be Iron Man; he could just be Tony.
Yep.
Come back as Tony for a 10-minute scene with Riri where you're helping her, a little like montage of her learning stuff, and I don't know, something like that. I don't think they should just throw him anywhere. Like Iron Man's back or bring him back to life. I don't think they should ever do any of that.
Well, Adrian would be on board for that.
As much he wouldn't. He'd be so mad. Him dying was actually one of the only things Adrian's super like respected about Marvel is that they kept him dead. If they bring him back, Adrian will never understand. Marvel does that a lot. They kill characters in the comics and bring them back like 2 years later.
DC's the same way.
Wolverine's come back like 20 times. So it's easy with him though.
There's literally a comic called Death of Superman.
Yeah, exactly. He comes
still
back
around.
like 3 issues later. As Black Superman, which was the best version.
That was pretty cool, yeah. Which I guess now that I realize it, Smallville kind of did that.
Yeah, kind of. The one thing that I missed in this movie, and I felt it both times I watched it, was that you could tell Chadwick in the first movie and in Civil War. He was in Civil War. In Civil War, you could tell he loved this character, and that he was T'Challa. Like he wasn't Chadwick acting like T'Challa. He was T'Challa, and the fact that he wasn't in this movie, being that person, was extremely missed. It didn't have quite the heart of the first movie, like because of that.
I fully agree. I think with what you just said is the reason they didn't do the whole CGI because they were just being so respectful to him.
Yeah,
being like, there's really like that would be a mad disrespect to him as a person and the character. I did like that we got a couple of like little flashback scenes with him, like kind of like a montage.
Yeah.
Oh, and my God, the kudos to Marvel. You know, usually that opening Marvel scene, you know, you got all the Avengers doing their thing. It was all Black Panther moments.
And did you notice it was silent?
Yes.
It was a moment of silence for Chadwick, and that was beautiful.
I thought that was really awesome.
At the end of the movie, they also them sitting on the beach just staring. It was silent for about 30 seconds. That was beautiful.
They did that's like I said, this movie did a good job of paying respect to the man and still having a compelling story that didn't really revolve around him.
Yes.
Like I'm telling you right now, I do not envy Ryan Coogler at all.
No.
That had to have been one of the most difficult fucking things to do. I couldn't even imagine writing something and then having to rewrite it. Like,
but then add
I have had to rewrite things many times.
But then add to that he was a friend.
Yeah.
A very good personal friend and a very nice person. Like, you don't want to destroy his legacy by screwing this up. And by no means did they screw this movie up. Ryan Coogler killed it. This movie's still very good. I just have more complaints than I thought I would have.
to me, it's one of the best movies I've seen in 2022.
It's not my favorite Marvel movie of 2022, but
Well, no, I don't blame you there. How can it be when we had the Multiverse of Madness?
see, that was probably my favorite
That's probably my favorite
Marvel
one
movie
too.
of 2022.
But I didn't watch too many Marvel movies. I watched this one, and then I watched Multiverse of Madness. What else came out this year?
Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
You didn't see
And
Thor: Love and Thunder?
Nope. And
Oh,
from
okay.
what I hear, I'm probably going to hate it.
Please walk into that with more of an open mind than you're hearing.
Oh, I will.
It's a good movie. And here's my big bombshell for the episode. Wakanda Forever was the third of 3 Marvel movies made this year, and it's also in third place for me. I like Love
wow.
and Thunder more. But it's because it's fun. Adrian hates the comedy, and there's a lot of it in Love and Thunder. The first Thor was mostly serious with some jokes. The second one was mostly serious with a few jokes, bad ones, but jokes. And then Ragnarok found the perfect balance.
Oh my god, Ragnarok's one of my favorite Marvel movies. Not
Period.
even just
Yeah,
favorite.
it's up there. But they found the perfect balance in Ragnarok between comedy and serious. And then Love and Thunder was like, what if we added some more ridiculous comedy? They pushed it a little too far.
Okay.
So as for Thor movies, it's my third favorite Thor under Ragnarok and the original Thor. But for movies this year, it was my second favorite Marvel movie.
I can't imagine any Thor movie being worse than Dark World.
I can't imagine any Marvel movie being worse than the Dark World. But we'll see.
Bad.
There's a lot of people that have Eternals even below that one, but I disagree. I like that one.
I haven't seen Eternals, so I can't comment on that.
There's just nothing to hold on to if you're a Marvel fan or if you're a movie fan, because those are all very deep characters that you have to kind of know a lore about.
There's a thing I do, and this is unfortunate that this is how I watched Black Panther, the first one. I'll watch the Marvel movies that are coming out that interest me.
Yeah,
that I'm like, I know I see the slate coming out and be like, oh yeah, I want to see that one. Like Eternals didn't interest me. At the time, Black Panther didn't interest me. Even Ant-Man didn't interest me. I didn't see any of those until I decided to do a watch through leading up to the next Avengers movie. So I kind of had a good idea of everything that was going on before that movie came out, which is exactly what I'll do again when the next Avengers movie is about to come out. So I'll eventually get to those. It's just, and sometimes I'm surprised. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, didn't think I would give a shit about it.
That was the one I was worried about, and it's probably my favorite Marvel movie.
Yeah, out of the Marvel movies, the Guardians are probably some of my favorite characters now.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, one of my favorites. It's hilarious while still being a good movie. And Black Panther, my God, never in a million years would I wanted to see that movie. Like, I heard about it. I thought Black Panther was awesome in Civil War, but I was like, I don't want to watch an entire movie devoted to this character. And then I watched it, and it's probably, like, acting performance-wise, one of the best in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's semi underrated for the acting. Like, a lot of people talk about the beautiful visual effects and the music. The soundtrack's banging.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize that the acting in that first movie is actually very, very good. Because when you're thinking about Marvel movies, not a lot of people think Oscar performance acting there. Not a lot of people. It's not all about like oh my God, he should be on Broadway or he should be in a classical movie. It's about dumb fun and delivering your lines and maybe showing a tear or two. But in that first Black Panther movie, they're acting their asses off.
Yeah.
Like Chadwick is very believable. Angela Bassett, very believable.
I will stand by this to this day until I see something better. I think the first Black Panther overall is the best acted film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Maybe the best acted, yes. I might agree with that.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best one, but
no, it's down there,
acting wise, it's definitely like top tier.
Alone, Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
are fucking phenomenal in that first movie.
Michael B. Jordan's an amazing actor himself.
Yes, he is.
I mean, every amazing actor does something shitty. Fantastic Four. But you can't fault them for having a couple of bad movies. Like it happens. No, everybody's going to be Leonardo DiCaprio, not completely ignoring his most recent film.
What is his most recent film?
Isn't that movie where they was like about the end of the world that was on Netflix?
Oh yeah.
Called,
I never
called
saw
Look
that.
Up or whatever.
I actually haven't seen that.
It was bad.
Was it?
I don't know.
I don't know that I'll ever watch that one. It doesn't interest me. But
don't Look Up is what it's called. It just wasn't good. It just I think I vaguely touched on this in another episode. It was just one of those movies that I thought the premise was brilliant. It's basically kind of like don't feed into the whole media aspect, like think for yourselves kind of thing. And it was not executed well.
If you ever want to watch and this goes for anybody, you ever want to watch a great underrated end of the world movie, please watch Finding a Friend for the End of the World. It's beautiful, it's hilarious, and it's fucking phenomenal. It's Steve Carell and Keira Knightley. Very good movie. Very good movie. The world's literally ending in like 14 days or something, and he has no friends. He has nobody that loves him. So he just starts talking to this random neighbor girl, and they end up going across the country together.
Seeking a friend for the end of the world.
Seeking a friend for the end of the world. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. I've seen this poster before.
Yeah. It was a well-known poster, but it didn't get a lot of love once it was out.
Yeah, that's.
And I don't think it's because it was a bad movie. It just didn't get a lot of media press. Like it wasn't marketed very well. It wasn't. The trailers weren't everywhere. And
it's got a 55% Rotten Tomatoes, but 81% of Google users have liked this movie. So
I really enjoyed it. TJ Miller, even though he's controversial nowadays, has a very funny scene in the movie. He works at this place. He works at this place called Friendly's. It's like TGI Fridays. And they're all over the fact that the world's ending, and they just get high and fuck each other at the restaurant.
Sounds like TJ Miller.
Yeah, and like they keep trying to offer to fuck them at their table. They're just trying to have a meal because they're going across the country, and TJ Miller just tries to give them drugs, and he just keeps trying to invite them in the back for an orgy, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah,
and
actually does sound good.
Steve Carell plays his like almost like 40-year-old virgin character where he's kind of shy and reserved and like doesn't know how to react to people. How Steve Carell does, Yeah, it's just it's very good.
Yeah,
anyway,
definitely look forward to that. I might dabble into that one of these days.
No, yeah, I've watched it a few times and I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't see that one in theaters, but I don't see them all in theaters.
So, the way this movie ended, the fight between Black Panther, because she is Black Panther.
Yep.
The fight between Black Panther and Namor was, I thought, really badass.
Yeah, the last fight was very good.
Her resilience to not give up, even though he had her dead to rights or defeated a couple times. And then she just fucking went wild on him. And if she hadn't stopped herself at that last second, Namor would have been dead.
Oh, yeah. She would have killed him. And that would have turned her into Killmonger. She would have officially transitioned into what she didn't want to become.
I think at that moment, she finally realized, I could have swore there was a moment where she saw her mother, but
maybe heard her voice.
Maybe that's what it is.
But I don't think you see her again.
It's been since November since I saw this movie in theaters. So
I saw it twice in November, but it's been since then, and I have a bad memory. So
don't mind me. I just for some reason I remember they're having a conversation after she was dead, but the fuck do I know?
Don't come at
me. Please tell me how wrong I am somewhere.
I'm pretty sure you hear her voice at the end when she finally does burn Chadwick's clothing.
Okay, maybe that's what.
Maybe that's what you're thinking. I don't know.
But I thought the fight choreography in that fight was pretty badass.
Yeah, they did a good job.
And one of the things that Adrian and I always like to talk about, not necessarily like to talk about, but when it's done right, I will always point it out now, because Doug gave me such a hard time for talking about how forced Endgame felt with that big female like barrage of women. Yeah. This again does the whole feminine power thing right. Like
Yes,
it's
it does.
organic, it flows, it doesn't feel forced. Like you're sitting there, you're cheering them on because they're a human being and not because somebody's trying to tell you to cheer them on because it's a woman. Like
Exactly.
that's how it should be. Like we can show badass female characters without trying to make it obvious that that's what you're doing. Like
Yep, you absolutely can.
that's
And
the way it should be.
Marvel has found many ways to do that.
Yes.
But you're right.
There
The one in Endgame is slightly cringy.
it is. I'm sure I'm not the only one that was taken out of the moment when that happened.
No. I actually, after we recorded that episode, I looked it up, and it is a thing people talked about. Like that, it was a little too forced in the movie. If they'd done it a little more organically, instead of
Yeah.
that line like "We got you, kid" or something like that,
Yeah.
I think
Don't
that
get me
was
wrong.
kind of what took people out of it, was that
If
they
it,
didn't need that line.
yeah. If it wouldn't have been for Captain Marvel's moment with Peter Parker, I think I would have completely hated that entire scene.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like that. She's like, what does she say? Nice to meet you, Peter Parker, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or and like that was okay because that was within the character of Captain Marvel. That was within the character of Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Here's where I think it would have fixed that. And since you have this problem with it, tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
After Peter Parker says, "How are you going to get through all that?" If Captain Marvel had looked over at all the females and said, "I think I'll manage," and then it backed up with the music, I think that would have been better than another character saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Because it felt like somebody stepping in like, "We got this, bro," instead of Captain Marvel realizing, "I got my girls here."
Yeah.
If Captain Marvel
Yeah.
had been like, "Don't worry, I got my girls. We're going to do this," I think it would have been a little better, less cringy. But the camera panning out and showing all the women with the music isn't what bothers me about that scene. That part's cool. Showing all those women there in their powers and they're getting ready to fight.
Yeah.
I liked
It's
that
kind of
part.
cool.
It was the fact that whoever it was that stepped in and said, "Don't worry, we got her." I don't remember who it was, but that person stepping in is what bothered me.
As much as I love, them showing all of the characters, which I'm sure that fucking entire sequence had to have cost so much fucking money.
Probably the most expensive battle ever filmed.
But as much as I do like that, at the same time, one of my biggest gripes is now where did all the women decide we're going to get together away from everybody else?
Yeah, how did they all get to that one spot?
Like
all
that's
at the
my
same
biggest
time?
gripe. I'm like, why? What? That doesn't happen naturally.
No.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Women, am I wrong? Do you guys all just
Okay.
flock together?
Now
Do you
here's
guys just flock to each other?
to the bathroom. But
That's-
here's maybe they were all going to the bathroom.
Eric.
But listen, here's where you're right. Them women wouldn't have all been standing there without at least a couple dudes in between a couple of them.
Yeah,
Like, how did just women end up there?
That's what I mean. It wasn't organic at all.
There were
Like,
hundreds, thousands of people on that battlefield, and all the strongest women just happened to be lined up right there.
yeah, I have no problems with those characters. I love those characters.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna do such a badass scene, like they did in Endgame with everybody coming out of the portals or whatever you want to call them, and doing that, they did that. That looked natural. That looked organic. That absolutely was correct.
Oh my God, Captain America saying "Avengers Assemble" will never leave my heart.
Yes, and I loved that Sam got to be the one on your left.
On your left,
like I love that. So you had all these great moments, and then to do what you did, I should never be in the middle of a moment like that and have the scene, have something happen in the scene that takes me out of the movie, because partially that kind of ruins it. Like the experience was awesome up until that point, and I'm not. Everybody's gonna think I hate women or something on here.
No, but that's where we actually veer. Where it took you out of the moment, it didn't take me out of the moment. I just kind of went ugh real quick. Like that was a cringy line, but then I was over it.
I did get back into it a little bit, but obviously, I think Endgame's a great movie. We have yet to talk about it. We'll get there when we get to that phase, but And I think I talked about it enough up to this point. I probably won't really bring that moment up again.
Don't worry, Doug will.
I know he'll try to force me to talk about it again. I think I've said all I need to say about it. But Marvel, aside from that, has managed to organically make these female characters extremely badass, as they are in the comics.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like in Infinity War, literally the movie before Endgame. Like, me and Adrian talked about this. There's that scene with Scarlett Johansson and
Black Widow,
Black Widow,
Gamora, and Okoye.
What's yeah, and who's the alien they're fighting?
Fighting Midnight. Proxima Midnight. Jesus Christ.
There it is. Yeah, that was so fucking well done.
Yeah,
like that was amazing. That looked great. The choreography was great. That was a natural scene.
Yeah, that was a very organic, female empowering scene.
This movie again.
Oh wait, I was wrong. It wasn't Black Panther. It was Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. It was Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, Black Panther. Jesus Christ.
Okoye.
Scarlet Witch, Okoye, and Black Widow.
That was done organically. Very well done. This movie, Wakanda Forever, there was a moment that didn't seem forced at all when they were all on the ship. And, part of that is, they were showing you how badass these women were while still showing the other characters and them doing their thing too. Like, you can do this organically. Like, I can see the other side of the argument where people are like, well, nobody says that when they get a big group of guys together and da-da-da-da. I was like, that's because nobody's trying to force that. Like, in today's society, we're trying to move away from that, actually.
Yeah.
So that's never going to be a complaint because there isn't really a lot of that anymore.
Except in the Expendables movies.
Except for, yeah. But, I mean, if a movie did that, I would call them out on that shit. I 100% would. If it's like, oh, look, all these men coming to the aid of these women. 100% I'd be like, those women didn't need fucking protecting. What are these 700 dudes didn't need to show up. It's a bad porno.
Or a good one. Depending on your taste.
But yeah, so it's not that I hate the idea of an empowering female scene. It needs to be organic.
Yeah.
Like, don't shove it down our throats. That's all. And this movie, like I said, the ending, that fight, like, Shuri looked so fucking good. I would almost say she even kind of looked better than T'Challa fighting, but that's because she was fighting with anger at the time. But,
there was much more malice in her fighting.
And when you're fighting with anger, you're gonna look better because you don't give a shit about the consequences.
Exactly. Little too brutal in her fighting there at the end.
I loved it though.
It was great. It's great for on screen.
I love good brutal fight scenes.
But T'Challa would have been a bit disappointed in her.
Yeah, and ultimately she made the right decision.
Yeah,
and their people came to an agreement to stop, which is good because towards the end there, Namor's people, they were about to fuck them up.
Oh, they were losing. Yeah, Wakanda was losing.
I mean, Namor might have died, but at what cost?
His people were very strong, and a couple of those people that were cornered there at the end were just humans. Like they didn't have any special powers, or they were not going to win that fight.
I was worried M'Baka was going to die. M'Baku. M'Baka. That's Chewbacca's younger brother.
He's a dick.
I'm just, if you guys haven't realized by now, listen to this podcast, I'm terrible at names.
He is. It's really bad. That's why we usually correct him.
Occasionally I catch it myself. But yeah, I don't know. I actually could gush about this movie a lot. I really did enjoy it. I took my two youngest children to see it with me and Amber. We thought it would be a nice little treat for the boys because they're both really big into Black Panther.
Okay.
And we decided to go to, I think it was like a 8 or 9 o'clock showing.
In the morning or night?
At night.
Oh, boy.
We did not realize that the movie was 2 hours and 41 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a pretty long one.
It hit like 10:30, and thankfully the boys got a second wind. But we hit 10:30, and they were both kind of falling asleep. And Amber leans over to me, and she's like, "How much longer is this movie?" And I think the boys are ready to go home and go to bed. And I was like, "Oh, well, we've been here for about an hour and a half. I'm sure it's oh."
Still over an hour.
I was like, we still got a little over an hour left.
See, that typically
Shit.
excites me in a theater. I like longer movies, but
Oh no, me too. But when you take two you know two young children,
yeah, oh yeah,
when you take a 7 and an 8-year-old to the movies, I'm gonna let you guys in on some advice. Don't do it at night.
right.
They ended up having to use the bathroom, which was so I missed maybe like 5 minutes of the movie.
That was very important 5 minutes, by the way.
It might have been. But they came back refreshed. They were wide awake. They were able to finish the movie. Nobody fell asleep. So that was good. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I would watch it again. I look forward to watching it again when I go through to watch movies before I get to the Avengers movie.
Oh, absolutely. We'll watch this a couple more times.
There are definitely it makes me excited for future projects, obviously, because there are some future projects that are coming up that maybe I was worried they were gonna like. I always worry that when something gets big as the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, people start to get a little laxed.
Yeah, they start to get too lazy with it.
Like, oh, we're established now. It doesn't really matter what we put out. They're going to watch it anyway. Like, that's what I worry about. So
Kevin Feige does not do that to his fans. He's still very involved.
Because, this movie itself has kind of, not taking anything away from, shit, I forgot his name. The director, Ryan
Coogler.
Coogler. Yeah, I was going to say Cooling, and I was like, that ain't right. Not taking anything away from Ryan Coogler, but I was just, especially after he had already had a movie wrote, and then he had to rewrite like the whole thing. Yeah. Like I was just really worried. I was worried that they were going to try to get it out closer to the deadline that they had already set. But that's another thing that Marvel does that sometimes pisses fans off, but they do it for the betterment of the movie. Is they push release dates back.
The day I hear about that happening, it definitely pisses me off. But the more I think about it, I'm happier that they're taking their time to put these out.
Yeah, it's Kevin Feige that's making those decisions, and there's a good reason.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything that doesn't mean something, and I trust Kevin Feige. I have for years. Like he's a brilliant man. He knows what the fans want. He's a true blue Marvel fan. He's not going to fuck things up.
So because of this movie, I'm not worried about the Fantastic Four installment by Marvel. I'm not worried about Deadpool 3. Hugh Jackman's a little worried about Deadpool 3. Well, did you see that video?
Yeah, he thinks he's going, if Ryan gets a best song at the awards, his next year of his life's going to be unbearable.
He's like, I got to spend the most of 2023 with Ryan. I do not need that.
Did you notice he kind of leaked a title?
I did not.
While he was talking about that? No. He says, for the next year of my life, I have to film Wolverine and Deadpool with him. And Wolverine and Deadpool are very big comic things. So it actually might be called Wolverine and Deadpool.
That'd be really cool.
And Ryan Reynolds actually commented on his video and said, by the way, Wolverine and Deadpool bub? With a question mark. I don't know if that was him yelling at him for accidentally saying the title, or
of course,
if he thinks it should be the other way around, Deadpool and Wolverine, or what the joke there was, but could be either one with Ryan Reynolds.
I thought that was really cool. I wish we would have got together to talk about that movie, Spirited, that song's from, because you and I both really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to talk about it enough during the Christmas episode.
Not really enough, but I think people got the gist in what we said.
That's why I was hoping we'll eventually do a Will Ferrell spotlight episode, and we'll get to talk about it a lot more then.
Probably. The only other thing I want to say is that my final thoughts for this movie are that this movie, where very exciting to me, I did really thoroughly enjoy this movie, and it's in the top 50% of my Marvel movies. It lacked...
That's actually impressive.
It lacked, I want to say, like suspense or not knowing what's going to happen. This movie was kind of predictable. I kind of
Yeah,
saw everything that was about to happen. I was wishing it was a little more story driven and actually a little less action, which is what I kind of don't usually want from my Marvel movies. I want them a little explodey. This time, I kind of wanted a little more exposition and I wanted more narrative. There wasn't enough narrative, and that being said, that's really my only huge complaint. Other than that, Ryan Coogler absolutely nailed this movie. And he took every single obstacle in his way, which was a fuck ton, and he hurdled every single one of them and still put out a very quality movie. This movie is
yeah.
very good. He's an amazing director, and I really hope he goes on to do more things, maybe even with Marvel. I kind of hope that.
A point to what you were saying. Yeah, without how dark this movie was story wise, and like the sadness involved and everything going on with Chadwick, um, I would agree that it could have used a lot more storytelling.
Yeah.
It could have very easily been that kind of movie, but it is a Marvel movie, and your Marvel movies have to have those action sequences. But another thing that would have handled the runtime problem is you're right. If they would have taken out Namor's backstory, this movie would have probably only been like 2 hours and 15 minutes long, and that would have been fine.
Yeah, 2 hours is a pretty typical movie nowadays. So
Not every movie's got to be 3 hours long. 3 hours long, people. Like, I don't know why people keep making 3 hour long movies now.
I still like it.
It was fine for the Batman. I loved that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot at the Batman. I could talk about that for days, but
What is that? That movie. Yeah, that movie literally was 3 hours long. Like,
yeah, it was 3 hours and 4 minutes long, and it's worth every single minute.
it's so fucking good.
There's not a scene I'd take out of the Batman.
Nope. But there are, as we discussed, there are scenes out of this movie I would take out. Not everything needed to be in it. Or they could have, like you said, they could have left it a 2 hour and 41 minute movie, but they instead of those scenes, they could have threw in some more story, not a backstory. Like, we really don't need. I get maybe a lot of people don't know who Namor is,
Yeah, I get that.
so maybe they were just doing that to kind of give a backstory, but we didn't really get a great backstory of Obadiah, whatever the fuck you want to say.
Obadiah Stane, yeah.
Obadiah. Yeah, we didn't really get a good backstory on him. We didn't get a great backstory on Whiplash.
I mean, if you look back at Marvel villains, there isn't a lot in the backstory. Like, the Black Panther movies are the only ones that kind of do villain backstories. Like, they obviously touched on Loki because he was part of Thor.
And Loki's not necessarily like he's a villain, and then sometimes he's not a villain. He's always so back and forth.
He's the master of mischief. He's he's another one that does whatever benefits him.
I would never classify him as an actual villain.
After the show Loki, no, I wouldn't classify him 100% a villain.
I would never say he's a good guy, but he's not really a villain. He's Loki.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna cause problems for somebody. He's gonna benefit himself, but he also tries to save his brother a couple times.
He does have a heart.
He has a heart. It's just made of ice.
Because he's technically
he's from Jotunheim. He's Laufey's son.
But yeah, I do find that strange because DC, for better or worse, always gives their villains a backstory.
Yes,
and sometimes that is really nice. Like, I love Lex Luthor's backstory. I love almost every iteration of Lex Luthor's backstory, because I mean, it's nice to know why is he such a dick.
But I don't need to see Batman's parents get shot a seventh time.
No,
it's happened enough times.
It's the same thing as we don't need to see Uncle Ben die again. Like that.
Exactly.
And you know what? Marvel handled that beautifully.
Yes, they did.
The
spider's dead, Ned.
I love that. DC needs to understand that their main characters, like Batman and Superman, we don't need to see their backstory again. Maybe if they're going to do a new Superman, I wouldn't mind like a really good backstory, because I'm not going to lie, Man of Steel was kind of weird.
Well, they've already actually announced that they're focusing on young Superman in the movie.
So we probably will
So we
100%
probably
get a
will
backstory.
get a backstory.
Um, I
Maybe
am looking.
it might be Man of Steel-ish, but maybe more accurate to the comics.
Well, I have complete faith in James Gunn.
Yes.
The Guardians movies are fantastic, even though I'm not a big fan of how the second one ends.
The Suicide Squad is also amazing.
The Suicide Squad is amazing.
It's funny as hell.
He used every character beautifully.
Yes.
As
Even
a
Polka
Flash,
Dot, even Polka Dot Man.
as a Flash fan, obviously I fucking love King Shark.
Yeah.
And you got to people don't understand because some people are like, well, that's not how King Shark is. It's like it depends on what iteration of King Shark. Sometimes he's a mobster.
Just because he's not your favorite version of a character doesn't mean he's not a good character.
Yeah, like I think they picked the right King Shark for that movie.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah.
The Suicide Squad wasn't meant to be a serious movie.
No,
like I mean, fucking Idris Elba's character and John Cena's character walk through a village and just kill everybody, and then find out those were all good guys.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Hilarious and horrible at the same fucking time.
The first Suicide Squad, which I actually heard a lot of people clamor for, the David Ayer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the David Ayer cut because Zack Snyder got his Justice League cut. And I'm like, no. The whole movie was atrocious to me. There is very little redeeming qualities about the first Suicide Squad.
You know what really takes me out of that Suicide Squad movie, other than Jared Leto, is the beginning of that movie when Amanda Waller is going through all the people that she wants to use for her Suicide Squad. Yeah. It's just 20 minutes of exposition dump. This is why I want this character. This is why I want this character. This is why I want this character. It wasn't paced out. It was all at once.
I get they were doing that to kind of like give you a little bit of a backstory to each one.
That's an exposition dump, and that's way too much at once.
I will say, not again to toot the horn of, a Flash villain. The first Suicide Squad, unfortunately, I think Captain Boomerang was probably the best one. Not because I'm not saying he was great. I'm just saying that the rest of them were bad.
I think I still got to give it to Margot Robbie.
Well, yeah, okay.
Her Harley Quinn's perfect.
With the exception of Harley Quinn, I guess I always forget the man. I thought Deadshot was awful. I love Will Smith.
He wasn't great. I don't think it was Will Smith's character.
No, I love Will Smith, but he's not a villain. No. And ultimately, by the end of that movie, Deadshot's a good guy.
And he didn't slap one fucking person on stage.
Well, it's because Chris Rock wasn't there.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't in the movie.
Pete Davidson was there.
My favorite bad guy. No, Pete Davidson's in the second one, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know why they do so. I looked up Suicide Squad and it's showing me cast, but it's mixing the cast.
My favorite original Suicide Squad character is probably Slipknot.
He dies pretty quick.
He does. He gets his head blown off.
I loved in the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one. I love that you get this batch of characters in the beginning that you think are going to be the legitimate Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And they all just fucking get mowed down.
Dude, when they did promotion for that first Suicide Squad, when they did all the posters and stuff, Slipknot was like a character they sold. They had toys of him. They had posters of him, and he dies right away.
Oh my god!
But anyway, I don't know how we got onto Suicide Squad, but
because we're talking about comic books in general.
I guess that's true.
I'm actually excited for both Marvel and DC movies moving forward.
I am too.
Obviously skeptical about them getting rid of Henry Cavill, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying. I don't feel the same way you do, though, and not because I'm a huge Rosenbaum fan, but because they're trying to do a whole, like you said, they're trying to do a new take or whatever. Or they're trying to do his version or bringing him back to play a silver screen Lex Luthor isn't the same as him being in Smallville.
But to fans, it would be.
Yeah,
he'd have to play it the same.
Well, he probably play it the same, or even more sinister than he did in Smallville.
Well, then any fan of Smallville is going to just connect the universes immediately.
Yeah,
that's what we do as fans.
Who knows? We'll see what happens. I just have a really, especially since that all came out, I've been seeing a lot of articles about both fans and Rosenbaum um, speaking about wanting him to play Lex
Now,
Luthor in James Gunn's
don't get
version.
me wrong. If he comes in and plays Lex, I'll accept it. He was a very good Lex Luthor. I just don't think it's the smart move, especially after getting rid of Henry Cavill.
There are some people, I feel you're right, like you said, would be like, well, if you're going for new and you got rid of Henry Cavill, why would you bring in Michael Rosenbaum?
They got rid of the man that everybody clamored to be Superman again.
Yep. The only
Just to
thing,
bring in Rosenbaum because he's his buddy. I think he'd be
yeah,
pretty criticized for that.
the only thing that upsets me about the whole Henry Cavill thing is it's specifically because he left The Witcher,
Yeah,
to focus on playing Superman.
he
And
also
now,
said he got all that he could out of that character. He didn't
yeah,
100%
but
blame it on
do we
Superman.
really believe that?
I don't know. I
I'm
don't
just
think it was
saying,
100% because he was going to be Superman. It could have
but
been. I could be wrong, but
I'm just saying, instead of seeing him either as Geralt or Superman, we get neither.
well,
So
there's already over 50,000 people that have signed a petition to bring him back to The Witcher, and he hasn't even addressed that.
yeah, he's never going to go back. I don't think so. He's
No,
already got
probably
another
not.
project. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like a video game adaptation of
Oh,
something.
Warhammer 40,000
Yeah,
4,000 BC or something.
that's what it is.
40,000 Warhammers or something like that. I never played the game, so I don't.
Me neither.
But
But
yeah,
the guy clearly likes video games. So.
yes, he's a nerd. He's a nerd. Me and Doug talked about that a little bit on our episode, but he's a true blue nerd, 100%. He has YouTube videos out there of him just putting a gaming PC together. Like he's a
Nice.
true nerd.
But yeah.
So Wakanda Forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a movie.
Overall, like as a movie, probably a 7 out of 10. Like it's not perfect. It focused very heavily on the passing of Chadwick Boseman and in the movie T'Challa. And where I'm okay with that, obviously, it's a beautiful moment. I felt like they just made the whole movie about the grieving process, and they didn't get to the other stuff enough. But that didn't take me out of the movie enough that I don't enjoy it. It's still in my top 50%. I still really love it, and I think all the actors did a great job. But story-wise, like the movie-wise, it just seemed to only focus on him being gone, and it probably should have focused a little more on the action by the end.
This movie, in that aspect, kind of fell into the same trap that Iron Man 3 did, where like Iron Man 3 was mostly focused on Tony Stark's
PTSD
dealing with
from New York,
PTSD,
yeah.
and this movie is mostly focused on the grieving of T'Challa, which as it should be. I feel like this movie gets away with it a lot more because I think T'Challa's death was a much bigger deal, whereas at the end of the first Avengers movie, we're kind of like they seem fine. like
Yeah.
it seems like it's resolved.
But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that makes me love Iron Man 3 so much is that they actually gave one of them what would happen to a real human going through that.
Yeah.
Like he had a great PTSD. His PTSD was real. That shit would really happen to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. And that's why as I've gotten older and I've watched that movie a couple more times, I don't hate it like I used to. I enjoy that movie a lot more.
I like 3 more than 2.
I like 3 more than 2 now too.
Yeah.
Once I recognized the whole PTSD aspect of the movie and started and I know Doug says it's kind of crappy to have that as your villain, but I feel like that's the main villain because Ben Kingsley's Mandarin is not.
No,
that's a terrible villain.
And yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But there was also Killian, who was, he was a bad enough character, and
he was.
I did believe him as a bad character, but I didn't love the Pepper Potts having the whatever they called it in that movie, the powers, whatever it was called.
That thing.
I didn't love her having that. It didn't make enough sense to me. No, I thought Killian was fine.
Yeah.
I like that he was like nerdy guy with like I think he had like multiple sclerosis or something, like some
Yeah,
really bad disability that was keeping him from walking right. And
he was Dinkelman.
he was Dinkelman, and then except with super performance enhancing drugs. And yeah, you know, I love Iron Man 3, but if I had to put it up against Wakanda Forever, I probably like Wakanda Forever a little more.
Oh, easily.
There's a lot more to it. There's more characters. There's more action. It's a little more fun to watch. But here's the funny part: is I've probably watched Iron Man 3 less than Iron Man 2 because it is more of a thinking man's movie.
Yeah.
But I like Iron Man 3 more because it's a thinking man's movie. So
I really appreciate the awareness really that it brings to the whole PTSD thing.
yeah.
So when you really look at it that way, it changes your it really is, it's like a paradigm shift once you realize that that's the main aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what happened with me is once I realized that I'm like, this movie is actually really good.
Well, I'm glad you came around.
I do sometimes do that.
Without having to watch it with your girlfriend.
Without, yeah. Yeah. I really don't understand. Maybe it's just because
watching things with people who enjoy them make things better. It's just how it is.
That is true. Because she really enjoyed the Star Wars movies, the sequels. And I remember seeing them in theaters. Not the last one. The last one I waited till it was on Disney Plus, but the Last Jedi. When I saw that in theaters, I remember being just really disappointed when I left. It was a lot more enjoyable with somebody who enjoyed it. Yes.
Actually, I think Adrian and I went. No, it wasn't Adrian. I took my son for sure, but we also went with somebody else. I can't remember, but we all enjoyed it. So I had the benefit of liking those movies immediately.
That is why I watched the first episode of Game of Thrones. Really loved it.
Yeah.
But I stopped. I was like, because her and I are watching Smallville right now, and it's one of my favorite shows, as you guys.
Because you haven't seen that enough times.
Well, that's just she's never seen it.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those things. But I thought to myself, is like after we're done with this, maybe this is something to see if she's going to be into it. Like I kind of want to watch it with somebody. I don't want to watch it by myself.
Is she into that kind of stuff?
We tried to watch Lord of the Rings, the first one, the one night. And I don't know if maybe she just was really tired. She couldn't get into it. But I mean, I had the same issue. So
Lord of the Rings is a lot slower than Game of Thrones, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot more action to Game of Thrones.
So I think she'll enjoy it. Which is why, if I didn't think she was going to enjoy it, I wouldn't even stopped watching. I would have kept going. So I look forward to actually getting to that here in a little bit. We're on the middle of season 8 of Smallville, so we're almost done.
Oh, you're pretty close to the end. Is that Brainiac season?
No, that's the Doomsday season.
Oh, okay.
That's where most people think the show started to suck. I think actually when they started introducing all the extra character, like the comic characters, I think the show gets a really strong footing. So
I liked it all the way through.
It does. I mean, obviously, it sucks that Lex Luthor.
Even after Lex dies, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I love the full-time edition of Oliver Queen. That was a nice touch.
I hate their version of Aquaman.
That's why he's only in it like for 3 episodes.
The douchebag frat guy. I hated him.
Well, that's the kind of Aquaman that you get in the original comics.
Wow.
Before they changed it and made him look like a badass.
Yeah, Jason Momoa changed that character forever.
I do hate their version of the Flash. I cannot stand Bart Allen.
Yeah, he's boring.
But as this kind of turned into a mostly, like, I know we mostly talked about Wakanda Forever, but it was a kind of a comic book talk too.
Yeah, I do that every time I'm on one.
I'm okay with that though.
Yeah, me too.
Our listeners just got to realize that when we start talking about a comic book movie, we're going to talk about other comic book movies.
There's going to be other stuff. This is not a 20-minute YouTube review. This is
it
a
just
show.
Happens. As far as Wakanda Forever goes, like I said, looking forward to seeing where they go from here. Excited about future projects.
Please, Ryan Coogler or whoever ends up directing the third one, if there's a third one, please make M'Baku a bigger character. He's like my favorite character in both movies, and he just doesn't get enough screen time.
Maybe he'll marry Shuri. There you go.
It's not a horrible idea. I mean, he is much more mature than he was in that first movie.
Yeah,
He's a viable leader option, and she is now getting there. So yeah, that wouldn't be a bad matchup.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, 100% I could.
Kevin Feige, you rock. We love you. As Hugh Jackman would say, yeah, Kevin Feige. I think that's how he said it.
Really,
Something like
that's
that.
it. That's your quote.
I don't know. They were both, him and Ryan were both gushing about him or something in that one video.
So do you have like a out of 10 that you would rate this?
Yeah, I think a 7's probably pretty good. I would agree with you.
Okay.
Like 7.5 out of 10. It's not gonna break my top 5 by any means.
No.
Hell, I don't know if it even breaks my top 10. It might break my top 10.
I said top 50%, but if I really wrote them all down, I don't know. It might be close.
Yeah, I would have to really go through them. There's over fucking 20 movies. There's
like
almost 30 at this point in there.
25 or 26 now.
Shockingly enough, I think the only thing out of the new phase that might break my top 5 is Spider-Man, the new one.
Wait, the Spider-Man that already came out, No Way Home?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very good.
That might be the only new Marvel movie that might break my top 5. I'd have to really think about it.
Kevin Feige's taken that whole criticism about Phase 4 very seriously, so I'm hoping he sticks to that and puts out more quality over quantity, because the shows where I like them, I get where it's impossible for people to keep up with that. And stop putting important things in the TV shows that you need to know for the movies. That's just going to piss people off.
Like Adrian.
If you're going to put out shows, fine, do that. It's great. Just make them their own project. You don't have to have them connect to the movies.
And if you know what, here's an idea. If you do put something that's important to the movies in their shows, maybe like add a little snippet of that into the movie where it belongs, into one of the movies where it belongs, so that way people don't have to watch the shows if they don't want to. Like, I get that you're putting all this hard work and effort into these TV shows, and I have not seen one of them. I've seen bits and pieces of WandaVision.
It's great.
I'm sure they're fantastic. I actually was excited to watch the Hawkeye show. I still have yet to do that. I will eventually do that because I love Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
Oh, Jeremy Renner.
Which hopefully he has a speedy recovery. He did just break his silence about his snowplow incident.
Yeah, he it was like running away down the hill and tried to jump in it to stop it, and he ended up falling back out and it rolled over him, and that vehicle, he said, was over 40,000 pounds. He should not be alive. Yeah. So he's very lucky, and we're so glad he's alive.
The resilience of Hawkeye, man.
Yeah, motherfucker. Like Jeremy Renner, he's done all these Avengers movies, never hurt himself on set. He broke both of his wrists on the set of Tag, and now this Offset. Like, the dude never hurts himself while he's doing crazy stunts. But then when he's just at home or on the set of a normal movie, he breaks stuff.
I'm worried about his I'm worried about how the show Mayor of Kingstown is going to handle his accident.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's a really good show. Please, I agree with Corey. Stop putting important shit in the shows.
I like the shows, but you don't have to have all this really important stuff in them. Like WandaVision kind of doesn't have anything super specific to the movies. Like, it's all really interesting, and when Vision does show back up, because he will, he's going to look way different, and people might be confused if they didn't see WandaVision, but you don't need to know the other stuff, honestly.
Maybe the whole kid thing would have made more sense in Multiverse of Madness, but
that's true.
At the same time, here's, like, I will say this because Marvel's probably going to keep doing it. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But find a video on YouTube. There's going to be somebody that's going to explain what you need to know from the TV shows for the movies, because there are nice YouTube channels out there that do that. I wouldn't say Baker Reviews is one of them. He's a dick, but
he's a huge dick. That's youtube.com/Baker Reviews.
Baker Reviews.
Thanks as always, Mike.
So if you like this episode or any of our previous episodes, it would be really nice if you guys could hit us up on our socials and, Tell us what you think, how you feel. Suggest a movie. Like, we started doing this bad movie bit that we're going to be doing.
Oh, and that was so much fun.
That was so much fun. I had a lot of fun with that. Please recommend some bad movies. Enlighten us. Maybe there's one we haven't seen. I would love to explore that. So if you guys have any ideas, like when it comes to that, make some suggestions. We're very open to hear them. Hit us up on any of our socials. Really, what socials? What are those handles anyway, Corey?
Yeah, on Facebook, it's Culture Shock Podcast. On Instagram, it's Culture Shock 21. And on Twitter, where I do most of my work and I talk to everybody, it's CS Podcast 21. Please come and hit me up. I really love talking to you guys, and I will debate anything you say to me.
He really does respond to everyone.
I do. Some days it's crazier than others.
We need that kind of, like, to have a social media presence is important, and Corey nails it. If you want to hear our responses, 99% of the time you're going to be getting Corey's response. But I mean, if you want somebody else's, just, Corey can relay the message to us and he'll get back to you as fast as he can with our answer.
I have definitely responded to people on Twitter the way one of you guys would. And sometimes I'll add your name if it's more like something Mike would say or something Corey, Adrian would say or something Doug would say. I will sometimes put your names at the bottom just so they know it was one of you guys. But if there's no name, it's most likely me. What's that?
I said, unless you're rooting for the Steelers.
That post had nothing to do with the Steelers.
I know. I was just busting your balls that day. Rest in peace, Franco Harris.
You almost said James Franco.
I did almost say James Franco.
Rest in peace, James Franco's career.
Well, that's true. Well, host, I think we nailed everything.
Yeah, we talked about everything and more.
Yep. We plugged Adrian's piece of shit YouTube. No, really, his videos actually aren't bad. I've enjoyed the ones I've watched.
Yeah, he's actually really good at it. Don't tell him we said that.
He's pretty entertaining. Don't tell him we said that.
Please don't tell him we said that.
We don't want that going to his head. But really, he does do some good work over there, and I would hope so, because I can only imagine what it takes to edit a video. I'm going to find out here in May.
So am I. I'm about to start some of my stuff too, so. All right, well, that's pretty much going to do it from all of us here at Culture Shocked. Thanks for listening. Chadwick Boseman, gone but never forgotten. Wakanda forever.